Hi, I'm Brian Usna, director of Bride of Re-Animator.
I'm Jeffrey Combs. I guess I am the Re-Animator.
This is Howard Berger from K&B Effects Group. We handled all the bride effects and makeups, and also the crazies in the beginning of the film that run throughout the film, and a bunch of the blood gags.
And Robert Kurtzman, also a K&B partner.
Tom Renoni, the effects supervisor, second unit director, and unit publicist, and all-around deadbeat.
And I'm Mike Deek. I was the supervisor for John Beekler's MMI, and Wayne Toth and I did Dr. Hillhead effects and the bats.
This is Screaming Mad George, and I was in charge of failed experiments, for the bride.
My name's John Beekler. I worked on the very first Re-Animator movie, directed by Stuart Gordon, produced by Brian Usna. When Brian made Bride of Re-Animator, he had requested my presence again, as he was bringing back the Dr. Hill head. So we created a new animatronic head.
Pretty much what we're doing is we're sitting here watching Bride of Re-Animator after 10 years, and most of us haven't seen it for 10 years. And we're eating some food and drinking some beer, so if you hear clinking bottles, that's what's going on. Now, when we started doing this film, this is the first film that we all kind of worked on together. This is the first time we worked with Tom Renoni, so it was quite an experience. And
Yeah, it's been great. We've been friends ever since, worked together ever since.
we have tons and tons of movies.
And I was at Brian's house all night one night, was really pushing for a sort of a William Castle opening, where I wanted Brian to introduce it, and it sort of evolved into that Dr. Hill opening.
And that was all part of the carnival sequence that was cut out of the film.
Now this is this war scene. Actually, this is stuff we did. We had to make a bunch of bullet hits and all that. And
When we were shooting this, Dave Friedman visited the set, the man that invented Gore with Herschel Gordon Lewis with Blood Feast, owns a Pussycat chain, and I personally had him supervise the Gore and approve it.
And most of the gore in this film, Tom will even say that he's pretty much responsible for. Even when we were prepping, Tom would call up in the middle of the night as Bob and I and the crew were working, make sure you got all that blood and pus. Gotta have pus on set. So it's like, Brian Usna can't be wanting all this pus. And
I was real happy about that.
yeah, we brought everything Tom wanted because we thought it was coming from Brian.
When it got the X rating, Brian personally either blamed or thanked me. I could never figure out what, but he did write on my Laserdisc, "Thanks for the X." But, when it did get an unrating, and immediately these guys started wanting to cut the negative. And co-producer Mike Muskow and I knew to get an immediate 1-inch made. And thanks to him okaying it and everything, that's why the unrated, which is the only one I might add that's sold on any market, that's why it exists. But there's only 2 prints in existence.
These reptiles are the key. Yes. You just still don't understand, do you? This is no longer about just...
So this scene, I don't remember, did they shoot this for a week, or was this a couple days?
Yeah, it's a week.
It was like a week, yeah. I was out that week for some reason. I just remember Greg and Spats going to do it. And this was shot on the North Hollywood stage, wasn't it?
Right, it went up by Sherman Way.
Right. It's interesting how we got involved with this film was Bob had worked with Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon on a film called From Beyond when he was working with Mark Shostrom at the time. And Bob just became friends with Brian, and they had talked about other projects. And this came up, and we had just started K&B. K&B started in 1988. This was done in 1989, the summer of 1989.
That's Spatola.
Yeah, that was Spatola, actually, who was working for us. And Brian called Bob, and we agreed to do it, and they ended up splitting up the effects. Like we said, we handled the bride stuff, and John Beekler and Mike Deek handled all the Dr. Hill stuff and other things, and Screaming Mad George handled all the creature oddity stuff at the very end of the movie, and Tony Dublin did a bunch of stuff, the eyeball thing along with Dave Allen.
And
the
dog.
The arm dog. So it was really split up, and a lot of the reason for that, I think, was because of the time frame.
The movie came together really fast.
That's the reason, the time frame.
Yeah, it was just very quick pre-production.
Being able to get everything done. And
it was a really hard film to work on. It was extremely exhausting. We had very, very little prep.
Hours.
Yeah. It was a 24-hour. It was a 25-hour, 8 days a week job, and we literally were working our brains to nothing.
All the way through prep and shooting, because we would shoot the first half of the day. The first day of shooting every day was a
first unit
thing, and then second unit took over from there, and we shot all night long. So, and I know we were, and Brian would like, everyone would go away that was on first unit. There's this little crew of guys that were there 24 hours, and then Brian would be crashing various areas of the set, kind of sitting up while we're prepping all these blood gags.
Yeah, and it was the makeup effects crews that were the ones that were working 24-hour shifts, and everyone else, the camera department, everybody else had 2 different crews coming in, but we were there for the whole thing.
Actually, at one point, 3 different crews. In the way it was structured was K&B focused on the Bride, which was the pinnacle piece, and then from there, all the Gore. And because gore is a very important thing to me, and I want to see it in the hands of experts and not just hashed out like so many people do it today. Still an art form, man.
Then John handled the Hillhead, John Beekler's company.
Tony Dublin, the hand dog, and the sculpted and designed the finger creature.
I think George designed it.
Yeah, George designed it, and Tony Dublin built it. Excuse me.
And Dave Allen animated it.
Dave Allen animated it. Still working with Dave. Just directed a Fabergé commercial where he did the stop motion on a 2-headed creature. A couple years, 93, hired him to do the shoe stop motion shot and Freaked.
It's funny watching this credits. Like the guy, production designer Philip Duffin just went by, and he production designed Evil Dead 2 and he's production designing a film we're currently doing right now. So yet another underlying lattice of coincidence.
Billy DeMotta, he's a great casting director here and actually cares about the old character actors and guys like, only casting directors would know who William Smith or Charles Napier is. He's great.
And one small note, the one thing that kind of did help this thing, because I remember that for the Dr. Hillhead stuff, we were, I believe, building a lot of that stuff as you guys were actually shooting some of the earlier scenes in the movie, because the pre-production was so short. But the one thing that was kind of good about it is that, like you say, that Bob and I had worked together with Brian in Rome doing From Beyond with Tony Dublin. So at least our 3 effects crews were like, we had an experience working under these conditions and everybody together. And
although I didn't blow any conditions. Air tanks up on this show.
Well, yeah.
We just blew our minds out. But yeah, it was pretty exhausting. I mean, we had very short time. They spent a long time casting the Bride. It was Kathleen Kenmont. I think we got her like a week before she shot, actually.
You see that right off the 101 near Laurel on the north side of the road.
There's Kathleen. So they hired Kathleen. We got her. They hired her on a Thursday. We got her Friday for body casting. We pulled the body cast out, and Bob and I sculpted the makeup and suit in a weekend, and then had to mold it and get it ready for the next week's shooting. It was really difficult, and it was a pretty involved makeup.
In fact, we had such a little amount of time for design that we ended up getting an Invisible Woman model
kit,
sculpting the suit over that to show to Brian, because we didn't have time to start anything from scratch. But
I remember
this is
we
where
spray
we're
painted
shooting
it brown.
in a real hospital, and I mean, I'm not kidding. On the floor below us was a definite death ward. I mean, it was very grim. I went down to use the phone, and
even you felt it was grim.
Yeah, it was hideous. Yeah. First AIDS victims were being wheeled out, and it was a cancer ward, diseases of the blood ward, and it was we were right there in the midst of it shooting this, which I guess accounts for something. Stupidity, I guess.
This was the first day of shooting.
Was it?
Yes. Your house burned.
Oh, that's right. My house burned down that night.
You smelled like a fireplace.
But what I always thought was great is that Brian was...
he stuck with it. It was
stuck with it 100%. And even though he came to set every day and
Yeah.
smelled like smoke.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Even the dailies, I remember going to dailies and the whole place smelled like smoke. But that guy showed up the whole time, and like you had mentioned on second unit, even though we were working around the clock and Brian was too, he would come and sit set even if Tom was directing second unit, and just crash and get up when it was time to get up to take a look through the camera.
Yeah,
so that was very admirable.
Mike Muscal, that body there has been in more movies than Charlton Heston.
I think that body, we've used that body way too much.
That's Mel Stewart. That's a location manager with the IV. I forget his name. Mel Stewart was on That's My Mama.
That's right, all those TV shows and movies and stuff. But yeah, it was an adventure. I don't know if I'd ever have the energy to do a
we can't do this anymore. This
we're
kind
too
of
old for this
24-hour
stuff.
working around the clock thing.
We start complaining at about 10 hours.
I understand that you're in charge of the remains from the night of the massacre. Yes, but it's my understanding that the case is closed.
Not to me.
But it was cool. I mean, I think ultimately we were really happy with everything. I was really happy with the bride makeup. With all the hard work it took, it was like a good. There's the
That's the stunt head.
Mike,
Yeah, that's the
Mike,
stunt
talk
head.
about that head.
Yeah, talk about
this
that
should
head.
go to
Talk
Mike
about
Geek
those
now.
eyes,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's the. I don't. Oh boy, this has been a long time ago. But that. Yeah, we had the two heads for Dr. Hill. We had the stunt head, and then we had a fully mechanical head that later on we attached the bat wings to. I remember we had a hard time with that thing because the wings were so heavy with the mechanism that was on that.
Finally got it work with pantyhose.
Yeah, it was pantyhose, and then we had acetate sheets too, the plastic
Yeah.
acid. We tried everything with that to make the wings lighter.
Undercranked them on a test.
Yeah.
And then they finally got him. I'm in this scene, I think, as a body, right?
Yeah, you're in the plastic bag on the shelf, right?
Yeah, there I am.
Lots of generic body parts.
Boy, you made everything for this.
Because we didn't have the budget to make all the body parts.
Yeah.
We basically got meat, which started stinking after a few days in there. Oh, it
just happens to be
around.
sitting there.
What's this?
Cough medicine.
That's something Dr. Hill was.
No.
I haven't been able to identify it yet.
Really?
I'm doing that first thing in the morning, as a matter of fact.
That was all butchers, all this, all that not the limbs, of course, but all the other stuff was actual.
That's not as gross as the real dead cat that we had in the first Re-Animator.
Oh, it's Michael Strasser. He's great. Been in a lot of stuff. Saw him the other day with Richard Lynch as a, racist killer with on Hunter, that type of guy.
Now, this was an actual incinerator at the cemetery.
I remember
that.
Yes.
The woman that showed us
it was
this
creepy.
had all of her body part stories.
Yeah.
We asked her if they really did burn body parts and such down there, and she reached into a closet and pulled out a leg to show us.
Oh my God. Let me guess.
Yes.
So I guess I've never been in here before?
Yeah, just happened to step in.
Or actually, no, these are, I go in here periodically, and now I'm finding something very interesting. The Halsey, Megan.
So this is one of those situations where you have to have seen the first movie
to understand exactly what it is I'm taking. And if you haven't seen it, it'll be explained to you. Ooh.
How did you get back here?
The interesting thing about this story was that originally we weren't going to have Hill in it.
That's right.
Because Hill had his head had been squished up and thrown out and all this stuff, and David Gale called me up, and he said, I heard you were doing Re-Animator 2. I said, yeah, and he said, well, what's in it for me? I said, well, God, David, I just think that, Hill kind of really, he blew up, his head got squished up, and he was thrown away. And he said, no, I think it can work.
Hey, see, those actors.
And that's actually what made the story have Dr. Hill in it. Because if he hadn't called, I wouldn't have ever thought. And I remember I called up, who was it? It was Tony Dublin.
Tony Dublin.
And said, well, we were going to bring back Hill. And he said, God, we really
mangled
smashed him up. You can't bring him back. So, of course, that's why we had the business with the detective fixing him up.
Yes.
Finding him, taking him to be fixed up. I remember when David Gale came in for wardrobe.
There is no
and
wardrobe.
he said, "We don't have anything for you." And he said, "What?" And he came to me and he said, "I just realized I'm just a head in this movie."
With wings.
Yeah, I think that was a Woody Keith solution, the wings.
That's nice. Gives him movement.
The majority of the action with the head was David, you know, with his head sticking through a prop or a wall or a table. And I would say the reason why the effect was so good is because he was such an amazing actor and he could make anything look real. Again, for those completely impossible shots where you had to have the eyes moving and the mouth opening and closing while the head was being passed, or it was flying, or it was doing something, because we did actually graft bat wings onto it. We created a mechanical version, which was a little bit more sophisticated than the one for Re-Animator. It was a radio control head. The eyes moved, the mouth moved, the brow worked. It was a fairly sophisticated little model. You actually see it a lot in the movie. If you don't know, you're not looking at it. There were a couple of green screen shots that we had done with the head, and they're fairly obvious. And because I think you're looking for something that looks strange, you just sort of accept the mechanical head flying around. We had created different portions in the head where we could connect a pipe and a pole, almost like a sound man holds a microphone. You could make the head fly either from the top of its head and cut it by virtue of the framing of camera, or you could stick it on the side and you wouldn't see it, or you could stick it underneath and you wouldn't see it. So it gave us multiple opportunities to make this thing swoop through a scene and look live. Additionally, we had these wacky bat wings that were glued to the side of his head with reanimation goo. And this was the tricky thing. We had to hand puppet these things on large rods by Mike Deek, who had the longest arms. So he would essentially sit under the head, wherever it would be, flapping the hell out of it while it was being put through the scene. Now, this also worked on David Gale's head when he was flapping around, because we had a fiberglass element that was covered by a wig and an appliance that attached these bat wings to his head as well as the mechanical head. So when these things were flapping around, it was actually funnier to look at the setup than it was the actual effect on camera. And we had to shoot these things, I believe, at 12 frames per second so that they achieved a high speed velocity when the wings were flapping, which is really tricky because David Gale, particularly in the green screen shots, was talking. So he had to talk at roughly half speed to make up for the double speed that we were shooting. Initially, Tony Dublin was in charge of putting together the hill heads for the first Re-Animator movie. This is prior to my being a part of it, and he had convinced both Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon that the only way to make an artificial head look like a real head is to make sure that something on it doesn't change, and that was the hair. And so on the first Re-Animator movie, they gave him this wacky dark wig that looked like a wig, but it made his head look like the phony head. And so essentially it was very easy to replicate. So when the second movie was made and David Gale was going to be this character again, he hated that damn wig. He did not want to wear that wig again, and he realized it looked artificial. David Gale had a full head of wonderful hair, and he said, "Is there any way you can use my hair and make the head look real?" And I said, "Of course we can, but you know what? You wouldn't look like the same character anymore." So we actually used a wig, but we used a lace front foundation in the second movie. If you look at the hairlines in both movies, you'll see that the one in the original Re-Animator absolutely looks like the guy's wearing a rug. In the second movie, it actually looks like his hair, but it's actually a more elaborate wig. So he hated the concept of using a wig from the very beginning until we glued it down, put the lace in front, and saw it, and it looked real.
Dan is just not impressed.
No, he's had enough of this.
He's wanted to tell me something from the moment he came in, and I'm just not letting him.
And this was interesting to try to do a basement that tried to make the basement set.
It was a great set.
A set for every major scene that would take place down there.
It was great. It had all kinds of alcoves in it, and
of course the idea here was to try to get the exposition taken care of while something was actually going on.
While we were doing it.
This is the key to creating life, parts, reanimated parts.
I remember you talking about this years before we did it, doodling with body parts.
Yeah, I remember at one time we were thinking about 2 eyes or with an ear. This is the new step up. You can actually stick things together with the serum.
And here's the magical handiwork of David Allen.
That's really cool.
And as a visual effects supervisor as well, I'm qualified to say that this is before digital, and I just think it looks great. Now that's Tony Dublin's hands, I believe. That's an insert shot where the 2 forefingers are real, and then you have a wire piece holding the eye on top of it. So it's a combination of several things: a pull toy in the wide shots, stop motion when you see it moving in close up, and then practical hand, and we see pieces of it.
Okay.
This is like a soap opera shot here.
Here is the coup de grace.
This whole film is a combination.
There you go.
Of everything.
The plate, if you notice that light, it was kind of stretched. The plate on that shot got kind of screwed up at the lab, and it was always a little murky. It wasn't anything to do with the technicians or David Allen. It was always sort of a mistake made at the lab. By the way, Dean Ramser, one of the executive in charge of the production, has also remained a good friend of all of us, and he's great. He works at Photochem Labs, and is from this picture, whenever we come in with our own individual projects, gives us a great rate to make sure that we succeed. He's, by the way, the hands coming up behind Jeffrey Combs in the original Re-Animator 1 sheet. I wrote the first interview with Jeffrey Combs. I was still in college when the first one came out, and thought it was, it came out the best thing to Coors Light, and called him and wrote it up, and then came out with a little film I made. It was nominated for Student Academy Award. And met Usna and all those guys, and it was great. And From Beyond had just wrapped and supplied the H.P. Lovecraft signature for the credits to From Beyond. And pretty cool. That's how it all began for me.
And then on this, Tom was just the mad Texan that came in. We were like, "Who the hell is this Texas?"
Yeah, it's like nobody liked Tom at first. We were so scared. Actually,
I hated you bastards too.
Yeah, he hated us.
And George and I especially hated each other.
That's right. But I'll tell you what, through the course of the film, we really realized we all became allies. And, and we really had to hold together, and we've been really great friends since then.
But it was a couple of days into it. George and I wanted to kill each other up until the end.
That's right.
Something about a Texas guy commingling with a Japanese guy with makeup and yellow hair. Yeah. And then after that became learned that none of this gender, race shit means anything. When you have people that are passionate and work at all hours to make films better, that's the real bonding.
Yeah.
Because that's so damn rare in this town now. And
yeah, it is. Very much so.
The first room in the house, the very first room, is location.
Right.
This looks like a Hammer set. It was lit like that. Rick Victor.
Yeah, we just worked with Rick on Haunting of Hill House. He was shooting stuff for Phil Tippett.
Yeah,
So
that's
he's
right.
back to.
He had
back
worked
to that.
at ILM.
Yeah.
He was the second unit DP on the film. He was the first unit DP on the film.
But up until that point, he had done a lot of stuff
Right.
with ILM and shot with Phil Tippett. So when we were on set, Greg went up to him and looked at him and just went, "Bride of Re-Animator." And Rick cringed. And, you know. The North Hollywood facility that we were shooting at was broken down into these little teeny offices. It was really horrible.
It was like, what, 110 degrees?
Yeah, it was
in
during
there?
the summer. It's just really stunk. And in one room was Mike and Wayne doing the Batty Bat head on David Gale, and then we had a room where we did the bride makeups. And I just remember that crappy cardboard on the floor. Remember there's cardboard on the floor?
Yeah, the one that put it.
Did you? I mean, but it was like it was impossible to clean up those rooms because it was just blood and
everywhere,
scraps and crap everywhere. And then across the way was George's room, and at that point Keith Ettenmeyer was working for George. Remember Keith Ettenmeyer?
Yep.
Was working for George. George started the show and had to leave. He went to Japan for a while, and then Keith took over and supervised and was in his own personal hell about the show. And then George came back right before the end of the film where they shot all his stuff.
And George always had that entourage around of
Yeah,
the
it was like even film
interns.
cameras. Remember, they were like making a documentary on George. And
Yeah, but
they
he
came
also
through.
he also
I
had
didn't know
like
they went
20
away.
interns and things like that. So every time George had an effects working, there would be 20 people surrounding him at least.
That's right.
It is weird because I just came off the same schedule with George that we wore in this movie.
The police records, which I'm certain you have access to.
I understand that you have some radical ideas about.
You know, Claude Earl Jones has a big New Year's bash every year.
He does?
In a Irish tradition. Oh, you should go.
Yeah?
I think it's an Irish bash. It's really, I've gotten the invitations, but it's like a big deal.
Big
It's
Irish
all
thing,
real ethnic and everything.
That's a pull toy. You'd have to set the rubber just right, which you could, where if you pulled it, it would look like it's moving. It's funny, I learned all my jury rigging from Mike Deke on this picture.
Bruce was very happy to let his hair be longer in this.
Uh-huh.
I think you were too.
Did I have my hair
I think your
long?
hair is a little more stylish.
Yeah.
Bruce got to be a little more stylish. He liked that.
I didn't really.
He really didn't want to be the kind of
the
uptight
straight-laced.
nerd guy.
Yeah, right.
A little more romantic, the payoff of the scene. Once again, just trying to have something going on during the exposition.
Right.
Oh, God, I smashed that. And that was egg yolk in there. Literally. I just took a big book and smashed it as hard as I could. And Tony got all mad.
Meanwhile,
he's decided to look at this stuff.
Aha!
Something's going on.
Dick, look!
Oh, the bat! Oh my God!
Now you did this too, right?
Yeah, we did the bat. I think Nick Mara was working on this thing
Yeah,
too.
I saw him the other day at
Yeah.
the car place.
Standing outside of Home Depot?
Yeah.
What?
Because John,
I gotta tell this.
Yeah.
Mike Deke and Wayne Toth are under this, and for some reason his actor didn't know that this was gonna happen. I can't explain to you why. And watch his eyes when this thing comes alive. It's a real look. His house still going crazy. Oh, that's real. I can't explain it. Why he didn't know.
Well, there was one point too where Brian was suggesting that since it's a fake bat and it's like obviously doesn't fly or anything like that, Brian wanted to have the bat go under a sheet and then to have the sheet on a wire flying around the room and chasing.
Why would you? That's the best idea.
I know, but I don't know why we. But that was one of the. I don't even know if we even tried shooting that or something.
Betty.
Yeah, that's
Remember?
This is the actor here. Like he's just, obviously moving the wings with his hand.
I always like that shot though, with it coming up and the wing flying over the camera there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a word.
Because John was working on Ghoulies Go to College or something at the time. That's why he couldn't be on set for a lot of it because he was directing his film. So that's why Wayne and I ended up doing all these effects for this thing. But,
he spearheaded all of it.
Well,
he ran the shop and everything. I mean, I know it's the guy going. I mean, it's all right. People are did a great job keeping it 88 different movies going.
Yeah, exactly. Because that shop was like doing that
like
beyond
General
doing all this
Motors.
stuff, was doing all the stuff for Charlie Band at the time, plus John's own directorial projects.
It's to where as soon as Mike and I met, it was instant hatred, but for everyone else.
Yeah.
Of course. I remember in one of the production meetings, we were sitting there, and Mike was sitting down the road from me. I kept looking at him, we were just sitting there because we just thought it was, this is ridiculous. Looked down, and there's Mike, and he had a picture of a bat. And anytime we'd come to question, now, Mike, how are we doing this? Oh, I know, it was that bat thing. And they're saying, how are we going to do the bat thing? You're like, we're going to take the bat and put it on a string, we're going to throw it around. Like, no, Mike, really, how are we going to do that? We're going to take the bat and put a string on it, we're going to throw it around.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, then, moving on.
Yeah, but the thing was, it
And that worked
did
great.
kind of work, didn't
Listen,
it?
you know what,
Because
that's
that's
what-
what it always
of
ends
course
up
it
being
worked.
anyhow. You can, like, especially for something like that where physics is against you. You
No, but
just
listen,
kinda,
this is the prime example, and Tom was saying this about the digital stuff.
We call them something
Back,
else.
God forbid, if you ever brought something like that to set today, you would be banished from the kingdom of filmdom or
And
whatever.
then, but
And
they
it would
always
be
do it
replaced
that
with
way in
CGI.
reshoots.
Right, but like this is totally acceptable, And nowadays, if you see a little buckle and some rubber or something looks weird, automatically forget it. We'll replace it with CGI. People forget that this practical stuff works great
Yeah, they all
and
love
used properly.
they
which
all
I
love
think
the
Brian
movies.
used all this stuff great.
even with those bat wings, it's so simple. The bat was just literally pinned to the table, and we had rods with alligator clips on it coming up through holes underneath the wings. And I mean, you may be able to see it if you freeze frame everything, but for the most part, you
Rods
don't see
meaning
it. Just,
coat hangers.
yeah, whatever we could find, whatever's in the back of the trunk of my car at the time.
That's right.
That's the name for rods today.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that worked out great, I
And this,
loved it.
like, this is one of the things where David Gale again was like crammed under that table for like hours and hours on this thing. All the reverse shots are the fake head without the mechanics, so you actually could see the underneath that there's nothing there. But when you shoot him from the front, we had an appliance on the front of his neck that had an overhang like about an inch or so, so it looked like there was it's all cut off down there or something.
Remember, I had to find that neoprene, which is scuba diving rubber
To put
go
the table,
underneath
yeah.
them. So that's what we figured out would look the levelest. It'd be most comfortable for Mr. Gale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
but
guy
we-
looks like Russell McKay, doesn't he? Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, Michael Strasser's like I said, a good actor. He's good one-man standing. Plays a punk or killer in a lot of TV shows and movies. Nice guy.
So did Wayne apply the makeup, or did both you guys apply the makeup, or how'd that
Both
go?
of them.
Yeah.
applied.
Both? You both did one side, and Wayne did the other side?
I mean, Wayne was, more dealing with the makeup stuff, where I was trying to deal with more of the effects involved with it, but we were both working on that. This is like the one scene, too, where we had the one light on the side of David Gale's head, and he had those purple lines by his eyes.
Right.
And Brian kept saying, the lines need to be more purple, but it was getting washed out by the light.
Yeah, I
and it
remember
went
that.
on for like an hour, and Wayne kept going in there saying, finally, it's like got to a point where you couldn't put any more makeup on him.
God,
because
I remember that.
Everyone, including myself, when I saw the first one, thought David Gale wore a toupee, but he doesn't. He had a full set of hair. It's just that was John Beagler's answer, which is, of course, an excellent answer, of having the same hairpiece on all the heads for matching. Just, that's why.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a hairpiece.
cool. 'Cause-
So the same hairpiece goes on the
So
on
he
the
didn't have to do
head
hair on all the other heads.
for
For the-
matching, which is excellent.
That's a good idea.
Because we had the two fake heads, the one mechanical, the stunt head. Then we had the bat wings on his
Right.
head. He had a fiberglass underskull on,
Right.
with the wig over that to disguise all of that. So
Right. Now this is the crazy, goofy sequence, right?
Yeah, Mike Muscal's in this bit reprising his role as the janitor. There's a janitor in the background in the first one.
She had
Oh,
big
there I
veins on
have
her legs.
Bob, we did
Yeah,
this
we did.
makeup?
We did the big veins all up her
That's
legs
right.
and stuff. I think.
Oh, put on those glasses.
The heck?
Uh-oh.
Eating.
Hanging
Eating
around,
again.
eating, right. Oh, there's the dog that was cut out of the scene.
Oh, yes, in the war scene, right?
Yeah. The one that he helped. He's a good guy.
You said hi to him.
Yeah, boy, Dan does have stylish hair in this.
Mm-hmm.
This is right off the 101.
This was
on
on
Coldwater. isn't
Nope. It's right off of Riverside, and it's a House of Fabrics headquarters. House of Fabrics headquarters. I used to live in this neighborhood, and I'd drive by it all the time and go, oh, I remember that.
Looking for a hospital.
Yeah, across the street is a Rite Aid and a El Pollo Loco and a Blockbuster.
What about dinner tonight?
You're right, Brian. The 101 is right on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think the sound was terrible.
Right on the other side of those trees back there. It's a freeway.
Real American style.
Real American style. And if I remember, he makes spaghetti.
Right.
Hope you like garlic.
Oh, she's going to cook it.
Right. Remember, she was just in.
She's going to cook at his house. I get it.
She was just a lot of vagina in.
I know.
In Austin Powers.
I know.
Hey, Pooch, where did you come from?
From Peru.
Is that where you met Dr. King?
What about quarantine laws?
No, Mr.
Lee Chapman.
Oh, it's Lee now. I thought it was Leslie.
It was Leslie. Now it's Lee.
Lieutenant.
I don't remember. Later on, do we find out that he's retired?
Is he retired? No, he just has a special reason for being. Oh, now he's going to tell us what his special reason is. He's going to tell us about the Miskatonic Massacre.
Uh-huh. Give us the backstory here, in case you didn't see the first movie.
Right.
This was our first day on set.
Yeah, this was our first day on set. And this
we
was
had
really
done the-
fun.
We had done these makeups. I think we got the actors on these guys on a Friday, and we were shooting on a Monday.
Yeah.
We literally
We did it in a weekend.
we sculpted all the appliances in
Johnny
like in an
Legend.
hour.
Johnny Legend.
Johnny Legend.
Who
The
actually can
rockabilly,
twist his nose. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
Tom's like, I got a guy that can twist his nose. Crazy.
Brought Johnny in because we were associates. Just shot Sleaze Mania on Parade for Rhino.
Yeah.
And Johnny's a Rockabilly Rasputin, dubbed after this as a Rockabilly Nostradamus. And then Dave Bynum there was a black, the black actor is a black clown that does Muppets and folds balloons for the children.
In pieces.
I remember Johnny, like our calls were really early, like 3 in the morning, and remember Johnny always had to have a vanilla milkshake.
Yeah.
That was like the number one. He couldn't function.
We
so
thought
3 in
there's
the morning
Kenny
they had to hunt
Lesko,
him
the
down.
stunt coordinator. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah,
Go
Kenny
ahead.
Lesko.
Yeah.
Yeah, Johnny always had to have a vanilla shake 3 o'clock in the morning, so that was a big thing.
We all thought he wouldn't show up, and I was scared because I brought him into it.
Yeah, you brought him into it.
So I got in on set at 4:30, and then he arrived at 5. He was the first man, or actually he was before me. I got there at 5. He showed up at 4:30, so we shot a video called First Man on the Set.
Tell him who Johnny is.
Johnny Legend's the guy that spearheaded and invented Rhino. Brought sleaze trailers and a whole concept of the 50s to the 90s and the 80s with Sleaze Mania and all of that sort of stuff.
So here we are getting into the scary patient guys. This is where Tom called. Literally, Bob and I were packing our trucks up at 3 in the morning. The phone rings at K&B. I'm like, who is it? Yeah, make sure you bring pus. You gotta have pus.
And as you know,
I'm like, don't worry, we're bringing the pus.
And you can see we have it drooling from everyone, from every little
So all this
cut.
stuff, we don't even, at this point we thought Brian kept saying, tell him to put more pus all over everything. But it was Tom that was kept doing it. And we coated these guys in pus. Now on her, she had a full bald cap piece, and the rest was all stretch and stipple and dentures. On Johnny was a forehead, I think.
Yeah.
And on David was some pieces, and then the big thing down
suture
the
down
stomach.
down
And
the
everyone
stomach.
was wearing teeth. So they were really fun makeups to do. I think we spent, maybe like 2 hours per makeup.
Yeah.
And Bob did David, I did her, Mrs. Chapman, and
That
then
was
this other
great.
guy, Brian Wade, handled Johnny Legend.
And then eventually, I believe Mark Matry and Mike Spatola took over
Brian
for
doing?
us on set
I guess he's all right.
while we were at the shop concentrating on the bride.
That's right. Yeah, we ended up handing off set, especially Mike Spatola, who ended up picking up the slack for us. And even when we were shooting, we were just so dog tired. And Bob and I at first would take turns sleeping on the floor. I would sleep for 15 minutes. Bob would go to set, then I'd go relieve him. Then after a while, it just got too much, and we both would just pass out on the floor and send Spatola to set. Since he had such a strong personality, he could really rule the set the way we wanted it and deal with Brian at the same time. This is the first stage of the bride here. We built a whole body of her that was all disassembled, and Bob constructed the majority of this.
Yeah, basically what we did was we took the suit sculpture and we poured it up in foam and then hollowed out all the pieces and basically constructed all the ribs and the muscles that are all stretched out and everything. And
very, very careful with detail.
Yeah, very careful.
Anatomy.
It was also, we had a guy named Bill Basso who really was one of the key artists as well on the show.
Well, we also had that consultant from the L.A. coroner's office. He'd actually bring real body parts, or I'd go photograph them, and it's pretty amazing but true. He'd make sure everything was right. He was honest to God, really right there, because he was very meticulous to make sure to give a Frankenstein that had never been seen before.
We had also, Brian had this whole concept of having them have to design, because the body parts were all coming from different bodies. They didn't necessarily have, one leg was shorter than the other and one arm was shorter or whatever. He wanted us to incorporate these ball and socket metal kind of extensions that he would attach to the end of the bones. So you see there's certain metal parts in there as well.
And we had to have the blood circulating as well.
All the fatty tissue underneath the skin.
And all this came together literally like in days. I mean, we were whipping stuff out.
The body itself is actually hanging. Brian had us drill the idea of that there's pins in all the bones and with little eye hooks on it, little wires hanging it, so they could piece it together.
We shot it all in order too. I think we did that body, and then we did the.
Then we did the assembled body where they attach her head.
What's that, Tom?
We had to, because no one knew what was going on.
That's true. Yeah, that was nice bloodage there.
Yeah,
pumping blood. Another Renoni.
Well, they'd have the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But it worked.
What's that?
These Makitas.
Oh yeah, hey, that worked. No, it worked. It worked.
Get this. It worked, but
No, that thing was beautiful. Yeah, what it was is it was Makita, electric Makita or whatever that was hooked into
worked
this
about as
pump.
good as a spruce goose, but yeah.
Oh damn you to hell! Blood was spraying everywhere, son. And we had like 5-gallon buckets. Yeah. We had 5-gallon buckets of blood, watered down blood, and we had the pumps in there. And it was shooting blood through,
I
spraying
think we
out
fried
everywhere.
like 8 or 9 drills that afternoon.
It actually ended up costing us a lot of money.
Bob got in a fight at 4 in the morning. I hate it when he thinks he's right.
Who, Bob?
That was great. Like the Three Stooges.
God, I remember that.
I do. It was great. It's like men that can really, scream at each other. It's why you have a partnership more tighter than the Beatles. It'll last infinitely longer.
It is true. I mean, it is like the three of us are like brothers. We fight continually.
Yeah. More
We
like
used to
the
have
Who,
some real knockdowns, but not anymore.
Blood.
Oh yeah.
Spaghetti sauce.
What do you think? You like it?
Yeah, right.
It's a jar.
I think somebody's going to be jealous of this.
Not jealous.
I
Jealous
think
is
somebody's going to be jealous.
annoyed, not jealous. Jealous? No, he's not jealous. Jealousy has nothing to do with it. It's just there's so much work to be done. They're wasting valuable time.
Oh boy, that was quick. Oh, I like this.
Oh, this scene. First of all, I know they're up there.
Oh,
really is bothering me.
Oh, it was cut out. You go to the door. I kept expecting you to come to the door and interrupt them kissing. Remember?
Yeah.
Now this gag was
George
did that. That's right. It was stump glued on knee. This was also executed by Keith Ettenmeyer.
For hand in the legs, where our design is, it's pretty obvious where, when the hand and separately when you join, and you still want to see a real, it looks like it's a real legs and real hands trying to get together. So we had 2 people, with one with a hand and one is a leg, coming out from the under the table, and there is a hole, and then you show it, and then have a little appliance on the end of the elbows and knees, and so it looks like that's where it's torn, and so that's like one, and then when it's joined, this is another thing. It's like now it has to kick the Herbert West and stuff. So we have the animatronic one. Simple spring kicking mechanism on it, and then he has to work it out. Like he has to perform miming, carrying around himself to do this. Actually, this as a living being, You know, I think those are the two main things, you know, that we did.
This is my acting with rubber.
Okay,
scene.
right. Well, I think this is the key to West here. It's like when Dan is off with the girls,
Yes.
he has to
The
mess
work-
around with the flesh.
Mess around. The work continues. Touchdown.
Goodness.
Look out. Up. Leg.
Okay.
Hand. Okay. And this was
Ah,
all
yes.
pretty much figured out on set, wasn't it? How
Yeah.
all that was going to work.
Yeah, it was how it was going to be done, but it doesn't get it done.
We did it.
Yep. No, it takes a.
And now look,
takes
see,
a
it's
hell of
alive,
an
it's alive,
actor
it's
to do
alive.
this.
See? Actually, that was just rubber. Okay.
That thing was heavy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Nice lighting, though. Look
And
at
now,
that.
what is he doing? He's
I'm opening
that's that
that
hole that he came out
That's
of.
right. And I'm going to throw that,
That
trash
looks
in
like
there.
a failed. That looks like some doodling.
Doodling.
Doodling with body parts.
On a bigger scale, right?
My God, he's still
They're
jealous.
still up there. Jealous is not the word.
What is it?
Just annoyed. And his annoyance with them upstairs causes him to see.
To like do something scientific.
Do something really, really
I think
logical.
it just goes to show Freud was right, you know. All creativity and comes out of sexual repression.
I just don't understand
Oh,
what they're
man.
doing. I've got work to do, and I need his help.
You tried to understand it with that leg and
I
arm.
wish I could understand, but
That's location right there.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
It's
we
a foyer
rebuilt
where
it.
she
That's
remember
right.
she
They
walks
built
down
a
into-
foyer, didn't they?
They had to because they scheduled it, despite all of our warnings and memos that she would not work within 3 weeks, and she
Right.
couldn't. I mean, it was just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's the bride he's referring to.
Yeah, the bride.
Yeah.
And,
That's right.
So they had to build that.
That's
for
right.
it.
And that was the first day we shot the bride, and we spent it was like almost 8 hours to put her into it the first day, and then we had that one shot, and then that was it. She was
Right.
wrapped, and it was another 2
And then
hours
I
to
think
take her out of it.
we managed to get it down to 6.
Yeah, we
most
got
of
it
the rest
down
of
to
the
That
days.
6.
location day onward is when it went from 16 hours a day to 24 hours
Yeah.
a day.
Yeah, it was pretty hellacious.
It was pretty great.
At the time that we were doing this film, we were working on 2 other films. We were doing Gross Anatomy, which was this Disney movie, and we were just starting Dances with Wolves. So it was tough because Bob and I were on set all the time, and when we got off set for the 2 hours to go home and shower, we'd stop by the shop and look over everything and all the sculptures and approve things and disapprove things, go home, clean up, and then go back to set and start it all over again.
And everything's in this movie except for Buffalo. So.
Yeah. But everything from Gross Anatomy. Listen, we still use those bodies. There's, you know,
Oh, yeah.
it's amazing. There's,
Charles
you know,
Neston line.
it's true. That's one thing you get a lot of usage out of those bodies. Like Kevin J. O'Connor, you know, we did a body of him for Color of Night. Kevin's been in like 700 movies he doesn't know about. Every time I see him, I'm like, I have to give you a list of films you were
Now,
just
this
in.
you might want to watch. You'll create some
Yeah.
sort of new SAG law here.
Yeah. Kevin's been in a lot of movies.
Here's
Hey, look, another dummy.
This is actually the dummy from The Borrower.
Oh, that's right. That's an upper torso from The Borrower of
Remember,
Antonio Vargas.
Yeah.
That's Antonio
But I
Vargas'
just pulled
upper
that out of
torso.
your shop, remember?
That's right.
And you got real mad.
What are you doing? That's from The Borrower.
We're going to use it here
It's
on...
okay.
That's right. The Borrower.
I still have that hand right
Do
there.
you? Mm-hmm. You still have the bride head,
Yeah.
don't you?
Oh,
You
yeah.
have that. We give you all
You
that.
remember this burn material?
Yeah, this
that
was
they-
cool.
this-
This,
Yeah.
Pete Von Schawley's wife, Andrea Von Schawley, came up with this stuff, and she actually
Waco,
was hired.
Texas is
Waco,
where that
Texas.
stuff came
Oh, is it that from you?
Straight from Waco, Texas.
From David Cornish?
No, I mean, Andrea conceptualized it
Uh-huh.
with what she wore, but we finally tracked it down to Waco, Texas.
Really, it was great stuff. It's material that's put on burn victims. It's moist and just keeps them from drawing out, I guess. But this stuff was found, and that actually was one thing we really did like. Bob and I liked as far as the wardrobe on the bride goes. That was we left incorporated. There's a lot of stuff that
Right.
Andrea came up with that Bob went and cut up and threw in the garbage.
Right.
But for the
Rather
most part,
excellently, I might
yeah,
add.
there was actually a pair of safety glasses cut and put on her shoulders at one point, which Bob looked at and said shit and threw in the garbage.
Speaking of Von Schally, Peter Von Schally did the storyboard.
Yeah,
and we just see Wyeth for storyboard.
Yeah, we just worked with Pete. He boarded Green Mile.
He's
Green
great,
Mile,
man.
So it was good seeing him again.
But the main reason we really dug that material was because we could see through it and see the bride, because we had sculpted this whole bodysuit. We didn't want to cover it up. So.
Yeah, that was the big thing. It was all this work. It's like, let's show as much as we can.
Jeez. Everything is an opportunity.
Walking.
There are no problems, only solutions.
Now this is straight out of the books. This
Yes.
scene. Gee, I wonder what that big pot.
I remember having such
burning.
a fit. Why in the world is the reanimating fluid sitting right there already?
Such a nice big pot.
Just in case. Just in case.
Those zombies are always grabbing their gun. And
Yeah, you just don't want them to. We already saw me shoot one at the beginning. See, now look at
Yeah,
there. Ooh, that
we
hurt.
were really cheap about showing the needle go in. Huh?
Well,
it was always hidden.
Okay.
Now, who did this makeup? Was this straight makeup? Did this?
No,
we didn't do it.
It was straight, but
Straight.
I
We
thought
did the
Mike
mechanical,
Spatola.
the RC wrist chop here.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah,
did
but
the
you
wrist.
guys
That's right.
supervised. You guys did it the first time.
No,
it
I
was
think you're
Spatola,
absolutely
and
right.
then from then on, you taught them how to handle
Yeah,
it.
you're right. Spats
The
came up with
Mad
it.
George supplied the guts
Yeah, that's
in
good
that
guts,
bucket,
by the way.
which I still have, and a bucket, along
That's right.
with Jeffrey Combs' wardrobe.
So this coming up, we did the arm chop.
Yeah.
Whoop, that's a good cheesy Savini gag.
Yeah, man.
Now we did a radio-controlled arm here.
Oh, come on. Tell them about the blood, Howard. Remember we were under there pumping it?
No, I don't remember.
We were in the bags, and they were saying, no, that's not going to squirt. And the camera guy, you go, watch this. You hooked up these fire guns. We were laughing, and it hit the lens on the first time.
That's
Pissed
right.
everybody
That's
off.
right. We covered a lot of guys in blood. We had this little RC stump. I can't remember if you see it really, but the little stump keeps moving around, flicking, and it was just a little
Pioneered
RC thing.
many things with a stump in this picture.
Well, we utilized technology learned on Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Stick a pole out his arm, elbow, and move it around.
How could he put a coat on? Well, he's sick.
He's not well.
Yeah, that was hard to get that coat on him. Now he's got it on.
Now we
He
don't
already
have to
put
show
it on,
Now
right?
he's just...
And he's just kind of having a hard time. Hey, the Miskatonic. Hey, I wish I had one of those.
I never got one of those.
What is that dog doing with her? Must be a setup for a further scene.
And I... Uh-oh. I like the little lassie whimper there. Oh. Oh.
I believe that. He just ripped, he just ripped the arm right off of it.
Like a cooked chicken.
Oh, now we know what's in there, where he is.
It's a mausoleum.
That's kind of confusing, I think.
What?
To cut to that mausoleum, we have no
idea.
No idea of what's going on.
You should have seen him come through the hole, I guess, and
go
step
right
down
in.
and look around.
Yeah.
Now, why did he take the dog leg with him?
Does he have it with him?
Yeah, he took it with him out the door.
Oh, there's West running with the gun.
Yes. Got there just as Dan did.
What is going on here? You startle him to make him that way.
She's hysterical.
I'm right. She is. Wow, King Lear on the heath here.
Almost every gag here is like some kind of major.
How do you like that?
Now, Tony Dublin did this, right?
That dog's real, believe it or not.
He's just heavily drugged. Yeah.
Oh, poor Fluffy.
Yeah. Tony outdid himself there.
Bad
I like
dog.
Tony, man. He's a great
Yeah.
guy. He's still going strong too. Like a real trooper.
Really?
Oh yeah.
It's just that there's, like what I was saying before, it's just there's an amazing amount of gags in this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, more so than just about. Well, I don't know. There's a lot.
There is a lot of stuff.
You're right, though.
It's all
this
practical.
Organization, because there's about as much in Wishmaster. Yet I remember being perfectly comfortable on that movie, going to bed.
Yeah, it wasn't
I think it
as hard a film.
Kind of all comes down from the top down, you know.
This is location 2, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Because they never had a front room set.
That shirt, that shirt room, right there is hanging in my mother's closet, along with the original. Well, Jeffrey Combs, all those people were laughing at. I loved the movie and was always pushing the Gore and stuff. And his original suit from the first film is what he wears in this film. Not that bluish shirt's for this film, but when you see him in the hospital, that's the real suit. Well, when the movie wrapped, they threw it in a dumpster in a trash bag, and they were all laughing, Jeffrey, but Brian and me, going into the trash to get it out. And I got it because I'm a big fan. I didn't put it at sale or anything. I'm a huge collector. I love this stuff. I can't help it. About a year ago, I get a call from Jeffrey Combs going, "Hey, I hear you have my suit." No. Sorry, Jeffrey, but you were laughing when I pulled it out of the dumpster, and I'm keeping it.
We had to put a rubber band around the dog's lower jaw, and then put baking soda in his mouth to get him to froth.
Oh, she hates him.
God, Bruce has really been working out.
He's buff, man.
He finally got his way.
Look at him. He always does.
Oh, there's the split diopter
That's
shot.
Nice.
There.
That's a nice shot.
Nice out.
Meanwhile,
over at St. Joseph's.
That's right.
In Burbank.
Yes. In the first one, it was the UCLA, veterans.
Yeah, the Veterans Hospital. Yeah.
Is just one last piece.
Boy, he just is not
quit.
Stopping.
Dan?
We know what that last piece is, don't we?
Gloria? Hi.
Oh, this is a good sequence. I remember this. I forgot.
How are you feeling today?
I think she's a goner.
She's dead. This is really nice. Bruce is so good here. He's so vulnerable, so melancholy.
It helps me to think of you as Meg.
It's like a confessional.
Meg who lived.
Was this the
this where
big
Kathleen?
rib spreader scene that we did?
That's something else we did. And Straight Makeup did Straight Makeup do her makeup, or did you do her makeup, Bob?
I don't remember.
I think once again we oversaw it and kind of said, do this and this and this.
Yeah, I think they
This is the day
handled
I
first
shot
stage.
the blood onto Jeffrey's face.
Right,
Isn't it?
yeah. We had the rib spreader and the little chest that we built.
And I hit him right in the eyes. Good
Yet
damn
another-
it, Brunoni.
This was also the first day that we had only had. I think we started the Friday before shooting, and we had to mock up this whole chest thing like overnight.
Yeah.
The old syringe with the hook to the scalpel gag.
That's right. That trick works all the time.
She's already dead.
Yeah, Red Halloween
But we had to
Force.
cover up the scars on her breast.
There's the squirt in Bruce's
That's
face.
right.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's right. It was Bruce. You got
Yeah, Bruce.
Yeah, this is
That
all-
was the second take.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one I nailed him
That was,
right in
yeah,
the
that was
eyes.
good, Tom. So those boobs were, that was just a fake insert chest, and we had an inner cavity, and we.
Yeah, but it's her real.
Yeah, it's
for
her. It's a
bone
cast off of her body, and it was like a foam rubber. Look at all that blood. It's like I think we had like a
Thank you,
5-gallon
bucket.
drum.
Yeah,
Here,
just
dunk
Here,
it
put
in.
your hands in this, Jeffrey. And that's the thing. These actors were willing to do anything, and like Tom said earlier, it was not a joke. They were there doing a horror film, and they were digging it.
We couldn't
you know.
laugh or anything.
But we didn't feel like we wanted to. It wasn't like, God, this is so lame, like we do now.
We didn't.
We laughed because we were having
We
fun.
laughed for other things.
We laughed
but
for other things, but they were totally serious, and it was, Jeffrey would the gore the merrier, and it's like
well,
Jeffrey got his
what
hands
it was
dirty all the time.
realism.
Yeah.
And I called my Uncle Frank at the time, as chief surgeon at Arlington Memorial. He said it'd be that bloody.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you see that on ER
Actually
every
did.
week.
Yeah,
So.
no, it's nothing. Yeah, this is X-rated, but it's on an ER every Thursday night.
Oh, remember the days when phones had cores?
Right.
Yes. Come to room 613 right away.
None of your business.
The heads that I had created for Re-Animator were specifically for those shots which were impossible to do otherwise. Those shots which did not allow for David Gale to stick his head up through a tabletop or through a prop or through a mannequin to achieve the movement in the eyes and the mouth moving, for example, while someone picks his head up and moves it across and it's still alive. So I created one mechanical puppet kind of head, which was articulated by hand controls on the inside, and a stunt version of it so they could pass it around. There were stunt versions, there were mechanical versions, and there were the appliances that we glued onto David Gale to create the look of a decapitated head.
This is like some of the best neck stump gag, head through the table gags ever, because this is a really hard gag to pull off.
And I got the stuff around it. I remember because I based it on the one sheet to the thing that wouldn't die. And that, if you'll notice, it's these same exact things around his head. Is that one sheet?
Yeah, it always looks really funny, but these guys did a good job.
I remember putting all that stuff from craft service, wadding up bagels,
yeah,
putting
all that
in
stuff
Johnny
in
Legend's beard.
And the stuff is also oatmeal. We mixed up oatmeal and poured it all over their faces. We'd be thrown off set today if we did that.
David had a wonderfully skinny, long neck, so you could really make these things occur. He was an actor of perfect proportion for this kind of gag. You could very easily stick him up through a tabletop, dress the tabletop around him, and put an appliance on him and still look as though his entire neck were sitting on top of the table.
These things, this was a long time to shoot all this stuff. And it was crammed up in that little cabinet for a long time.
You can't even tell the real head and fake head in some of these shots.
Yo, Dr. West. Let's get this.
What a creepy instrument this is, huh?
No. You get the feet. I'll get the head.
I've already gotten
What does he mean by that?
He means he's already gotten the head. That's what he means. Oh.
Hey, was she good looking, Doc?
Pretty.
West does not appreciate jokes of that nature.
No, colloquial little
Fleshy
witticisms are just... What a creepy thing. You hide the body. Oh, my God.
You take this to the crematorium. Crematorium? I mean pathology. I mean crematorium.
Ah. Yes, and I'll take this to...
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Have you seen Dr. Kane?
I have his T-shirt.
The day, I think. Is there something? He's very upset.
He lost a patient.
Oh, God. I've never known a doctor that cares so much.
Neither have we.
Isn't he a good guy?
Yes, he is.
Okay, this is the second stage bride. This is a complete pull out of the bride mold. We put her feet on and hands, and I think her head. They show her head in this. Or no, they bring
right. The head's not attached yet.
Not yet, but the head's
sitting there
separate.
to the side.
There it is. Kathleen's head. And we work like dogs to get this done. And I remember there's going to be a shot coming up where Jeffrey's like, what's that?
Work like
that.
Slaves.
There's a shot coming up where Jeffrey grabs the hand and pulls the tendons. Remember
Dog's got an 8-hour day, remember?
Which that gag was a real wrist and then a false arm coming off of it that had the three-dimensional qualities to it, being cut open and everything.
You know, that guy that's now one of the key members of the band Tool did a lot of the sculpting. Adam Jones on his...
he did some of it. He did a couple appliances.
Work on attending and stuff?
I think so, yeah. He did some hand appliances. Yeah, he worked for us for a little bit on the show. We had a good crew. It was a small crew back then.
Picked apart by the likes of Dr. Graves and his bumbling students.
So far we've got an ambitious hooker. Okay, ambitious hooker dancer.
Twinkle Toes the hooker.
Right, with a lot of drive. We cut some stuff there.
Oh yeah, there was a lot more.
The womb. Okay, so she's a virgin, but she's a whore.
She's the virgin whore
dancer with a lot of ambition.
In death.
There were a lot of things that was a general idea how this stuff was going to be shot, but it wasn't until we actually got on set where we knew what we had to do. That's why Dr. Hill's had had 3 different ways to kind of try to puppeteer that thing, either a pole coming out the back of the head or suspending it on wires or puppeteering it from underneath. Because
part of the movie was back by Japanese money, and it all sort of came in to Brian at the last second, so it just had to go, you know?
Yeah, right here's the fake hand.
Yeah,
the wrist
like
thing.
a hand with an appliance.
Right. He's just cradling it.
But I remember specifically we were working to get everything done, and that we were behind on that, and Brian went to Brian and said, listen, we don't have that yet. We need to push this a day or so. And he had a total meltdown. I was like, wait a minute, we just did all the bride stuff and got these bodies done. This can be shot any time. Tom can shoot this, like, tomorrow night. Well, that was one of the more pleasant moments on the show.
Oh, yes.
Lots of those, I recollect.
Yeah. Like, you work your fingers to the bone and get yelled at.
I love the old thing, Tom, whenever we were talking about whatever gag was coming up, we didn't quite have it ready, and then the whole thing was, yeah, I think I left something in my car. I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah. You have the keys hanging out of your pocket at all times, just in case.
Mike Punsell and
and
all of this.
Scout,
I left something in the car, and it was to drive off and never come back.
I remember too. We had these kind of bands that would hold the flesh together. You know, where it was cut open, the separate pieces on the sides, they were all bound together with these bands that would hook from one side to the other across all the wounds. I thought it was just an interesting look.
Cool. I remember I was living with Joe Pilato at this time.
Oh, really?
Remember?
Yeah, I do.
He goes, "What the hell are you working on?" Because I was never home.
This guy is losing it, I think.
Oh, he's already lost it.
Oh my God, mercy.
Wasn't he George
Look at all those
Jefferson?
bodies in the background and stuff.
Yeah, it is George
That's
Jefferson.
George Jefferson.
No, it's not George.
Yeah, he was the first George Jefferson.
One on,
yeah,
you know what? You're right. He was the very first one. Remember that shot? Why did he have like one crazy foot?
There's blood everywhere.
Mel Smith was like, his toe was sticking out
That's
of his shoe.
real. He hurt his foot on.
And he had to wear a cast.
Yeah, they were shooting or car wash, and he hurt his foot.
I didn't do anything.
That's black velvet on David Gale's shoulders, because naturally that's what photographs the least. It's the blackest thing, quality velvet. Black velvet. It doesn't register on film.
That's why, is this where he puts Batty Batwings on?
Yep.
Yeah, this is where, okay.
That's nice.
Was that just a blood knife?
Scalpel
Oh,
gag,
that's
like,
right.
been done like,
Learned it from Savini.
Yeah, I was doing that for 15 years now. I think for the bat, we had Nick Mara come in for that thing, but we were doing that all night long because there were like a lot of problems figuring out what the material to make the wings out of was. And I remember the first time we put a motor in the head, we tried to do it on batteries so we didn't have power cables coming out of it. And we got it to work, but the batteries drained literally within like 20 seconds, and it melted the plastic carrier that the batteries were in. And then we had to go and rig up power cords to the whole thing, which was kind of scary because we had bare wires hanging from the ceiling holding the head.
It was dental dam the first time, or the second time.
Yeah.
And it was too heavy.
Get off me! Let me go! Get off me!
What's the matter? Don't you like me?
Oh, being felt up by a stump.
Oh!
West, they did this to me.
Oh. I forgot about that.
Charged stump in the mouth.
That's good.
That's terrifying.
Let me out! Let me out, please! Please let me out! Please!
Oh, the aftermath.
This was the first day also, the first day of shooting, where we shot the crazies and then cleared them all out. Did all this stuff.
Those clouds were really just actually there. It was really an insane
it was an insane, it was the naughty room.
Yeah. That isn't a Cogulite, though. Those were mirror lights, green gelled.
And what's that, Tom?
That was soaked in Siloam.
It was just like
just soaked in Siloam, yeah.
They're only going to reanimate her neck area.
That's it.
Right now.
It's, to make the tissue kind of something.
But I sure wish we saved this stuff. Looking back at it, I don't even know where it is, what we did with it, or if it got trashed, or...
I think I have most of it.
You probably do. I think we were just...
I know you have the stretchy head, the disintegration head there.
But I got the hand, I got most of the body parts. It's all in my room in Texas. It's funny, because it was in my mother's trunk when I went back. I don't know how or why, because it came in from the airport, and it just stayed in the trunk, and a grocery guy was putting groceries in her trunk and nearly passed out. It's excellent.
It's probably like really rotting from all the organic material that was put on it.
This whole movie is more Mary Shelley's Frankenstein than Lovecraft.
Well, I remember reading that before we started filming.
Yeah, I had just read it when we started working on it, and was really impressed by the amazing theme of the created being turned away by its creator.
Right.
And it's
rejecting it.
And it was and I think this is sort of an operatic version of that. That whole thing of, her saying, "Is this what you want?" And this looks great.
That really does. Yes, we are a team. You start with the heart. And of course, Brian, there's a storm going on outside.
The makeup that we did on Kathleen was like a kind of a partial bodysuit.
6.5 hours.
Yeah, it was like the first day was 8, and we got it down to 6 or 6.5. And what we did is she'd get into it. She had to be fully nude. We'd slide her into it. One leg was fully covered with the suit. The other leg was free, but the seam went right up her butt crack and along her.
One rubber butt cheek.
One rubber butt cheek and one real butt cheek. So we'd get that on her and zip it up, and we'd glue it down. We had the spray glue. Spray 355. Yeah. Sprayed it in and stick it to her body, and we'd sit there and we had to blend off the edges on her ass and crotch area and up around her neck and her arms. So then there were all these other facial appliances. She had facial appliances and appliances on her hands and feet. So once we got her into the bodysuit, Bob and I would start blending it off, and Mike Spatola would come in later and he would do the feet and the hands, glue those and blend them down. They were all foam rubber. And Bob and I would paint her up, and Bob would do all the final detailing and all the veinage and stuff and dressing. We had 3 suits that we made because the time frame, and 6 sets of appliances. So we were limited to 6 days, and everybody knew it. And I remember, we shot and shot and shot. And the first day we shot, we did one shot with her up on the foyer, and then they're like, "Okay, that's it. She's a wrap." And we're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Took her out. It took 2 hours to clean her up every day, and so it was the 6th day we were taking her out of the suit, and Brian came and was like, "She's got to play again tomorrow. I've got one more. I got one more shot." And Bob and I looked at each other and we said to Brian, "No, Brian, this is it. We don't have any more suits. We were only able to stretch each suit for 2 days." Brian's like, "What are you talking about? You got this suit right here." And he grabbed the suit off the floor that we had just used for 2 days. It was all messed up. And he's like, "You can use this one tomorrow. We're doing it again tomorrow." And I was just so tired and exhausted and furious. I took the suit and a pair of scissors and just started cutting it up in front. I'm going, "This suit, we don't have any more suits. What are you talking about?" So Brian just stormed out of the makeup room, and we wrapped the movie then. That was a pleasant experience as well.
But the whole thing was, after 2 days in the suit, it was so trashed that if you did put her in it again, it would look horrible. Yeah. We didn't want it to look bad. So
it was really for the and I guess obviously we didn't really need that shot.
Also sanitary.
Yeah, it was also.
Yeah, it was disgusting, and she'd been wearing it for hours and hours. So, and she was burned out too. We were trying to give her like every other day a break, and that never really happened.
kind of shot consecutively.
Yeah, so she really got racked up pretty badly.
I did show that actor there, Dave Bynum, that particular zombie walk. That,
the Tom Renone shuffle?
No, it's kind of influence from a Bob Hope movie.
Is that
from
Bob
Antan Moreland. Oh, I remember this insert was shot. That was shot right there in post.
That's the head on a pole going up the shadow. Yeah. Sorry.
That was beautiful.
And then the head coming out of the box was just the head on the string getting yanked through the packing peanuts.
Used all the.
And it broke a few times. And you got the 20-pound test line. When she pulled up in a car, that was Mike Muscal's car, the co-producer, which is to give you an indication of the budget. He sold that car last week. Seriously, got a BMW M3. So
really,
boy, the cinematography.
Yeah, it's very good.
Really good. What was the backstory? Didn't he beat her?
Yeah, she's getting even with him now because he used to beat her up.
Beat her up and made the crack in her.
Yeah, that's why Wes has that great line. You wife beater.
Right.
Damn, this is a good movie.
Wasn't it when they had to reshoot that whole thing? Like ghoulies walking around outside. I remember the first time they did it. The lightning strikers were behind the crew, so whenever the lightning hit, you saw the shadows of the crew across the ground, and they saw it in dailies.
Yeah.
Remember? They had to go back and reshoot all that stuff.
This is Johnny Legend's big moment where he imitates Tor Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the real wide-angle lens.
Look at that.
Dry ice, lit from below.
This is just high opera here.
It's also excellent because there's no CGI.
Yeah. No, I think this was like the third day second day we put Kathleen in the suit.
Kathleen even looks good like that.
Mm-hmm. And we ended up mixing blood in with KY jelly to kind of thin it out so it became translucent so that you wouldn't lose all the detail. Because when you cover things with blood, you just lose any painting detail you've done on it. So,
and I think that was the first time we had done that too. We just like, what can we use so it doesn't obscure anything?
Painting it on.
Yeah, we just paint on the gel or the KY blood.
Kept your detail.
Yep. And didn't get all gooey and sticky. Stayed moist and pliable.
I mean, the idea was just again keep it totally anatomically correct. No one fudged anything. That was what was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty much 100% on everybody's part.
Mm-hmm. We had all these books from Gross Anatomy, and had gone down to some medical schools in Long Beach and looked at the cadavers they used during, medical school training and everything. And we actually looked at, skin cadavers.
Then she's got really the only bit of wardrobe is this gauzy material, which I like a lot, and she's got some sort of brace on her stomach area, which
she's got the great.
And on the back, those metal strips are actually zip ties, spray painted silver.
She's got the great herky-jerky movements.
She really had it down
Bride of
pat.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, she was really great.
Totally homaged,
Yeah, it really was. Did a good job.
Bride of Frankenstein originally was about the heart of Frankenstein's wife.
Right.
Before they made the final version, the earliest script was that Dr. Frankenstein's wife, Elizabeth, whatever her name was,
her heart
got killed, and they used her heart because when you build a man, you build it from the brain,
and when you
build a woman, you build it from the heart.
What a tense day.
There were a lot of tense days on this thing.
It was just one big tense day.
That's right. The days never ended. I forgot.
Remember what movie that was stolen from? Is Johnny Legend still doing Tor Johnson?
I remember too. We actually incorporated her scars into the sculpture.
That's right. Yeah, we made kind of slight
on her
keloids.
breasts. They became part of it.
Right. Actually, Mike Spatola did this. He took over this makeup for me.
Well, we were busy with the bride.
Yeah, I think we were just doing the bride. So I asked Mike
this movie wasn't shot in order. All this stuff was shot the first week.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It was horrible. And no one knew what was going on.
Nope.
Yeah, in fact, the sequence, the opening military sequence was shot at the end of the sketch.
Yeah.
Well, he's climbing the lattice.
With one hand,
yeah. God, I'd forgotten
This was hard to do all this business with the head, remember?
Yeah.
That shadow going up the stairs earlier was really tough.
I remember that. It was real tricky
to
make it
right.
to get it so it looked like it was going up without showing any of the.
Because it has to be a big reveal here, with the head.
Oh, I always like this: taking the lamp and using it like that.
Herbert. This was the first day the bride worked.
Yeah.
This is the one shot. We did the 8-hour makeup and just shot this little piece here.
Also, remember, we found all these weird, and I don't know where we got those, all those weird braces, the wrist braces and the leg braces.
Was that Andrea? I think
Yeah,
Andrea
right.
found all
Okay.
that stuff. Now, did we put something in her eyes? Something in
Yeah,
her eyes
eye
was
blood
red.
tears.
Is that it? Yeah, that's right.
Eye
We put
blood.
eye blood in.
I made you.
It's like two parents with a child, and the child.
Uh-oh. Captain.
Yeah, Captain.
There was a lot of research, like what would really be there to support. And I drew a lot. In fact, I actually cut my hand off, and in it now is wires for the tendons. So kind of played up on that, and in a sense.
Oh, that is way gross.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's oatmeal we put in David's mouth.
He's great. What? Does anyone know? Is he still juggling for children, or?
I don't know. I was just at Venice. I didn't see him.
There's also a brace on the back of her head. Back
Yeah,
of her
the
neck,
neck
and
support,
screwed
yeah.
into her
Oh,
skull.
that's right. That's right. God, I sure wish we would have kept one of these. Well, it's still a makeup I'm really proud of, actually. I think it's really good, clean makeup.
Should be. It's great.
Yeah, it is. It's still.
In fact, I.
Still very proud of it.
Yeah, you should.
And what was nice is Brian did give us a tremendous amount of leeway in the design of it and
Oh, yeah.
all that. It was really great. This was like day 3, I think.
On the stage.
Mm-hmm.
With her.
Yeah, on the stage with her. There's the vat of genius.
All a test shot to make sure the 3 different times of, reanimation stuff matched. It just wasn't luck. A lot of detail was in this shoot.
Oh, Dan.
Now
is
Dan's
really-
having a absolute earthquake of
Oh my God, he's
realization.
My God, they're using tools.
One of my favorite lines in this movie.
They're developing, I
Oh,
think.
there's some more of my serum sitting
Absolutely.
there. I am just
It's time to get out of Dodge,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, if they're using tools, pack. Oh no, now it's gonna be a cat fight.
We created her.
Here's your big scene in front of the tree.
Yes. Dead pieces of this. My hands. I created what no man's mind or woman's womb could ever.
That's right. Don't you forget it.
Blasphemy? Before what God? A God repulsed by the miserable humanity he created in his own image? I will not be shackled by the failures of your God. The only blasphemy is to wallow in insignificance. I have taken refuse of your God's failures, and I have triumphed.
And I like the shaking right there.
There is my creation.
How about that?
Wow, that's Frankenstein right there. I like all the color in this.
Yeah.
I think Rick really has a
He
great
really did.
lighting scheme.
Yeah.
Fight them off. Leave him alone. Listen to me.
Oh no, cat fight.
Got to get the blinking lights going. Oh, here we go.
Here it is.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's all over the place.
Originally, of course, we wanted to have all the body parts come to life with
that stuff.
But of course, there's a limit to
what we can do.
What we
right?
could do. Even though we were working with 3 crew. Oh, there you go. Got to have blinking lights at the end of a horror movie. Smoke.
I hated saying those lines. Despised
I think it's great. This was before the NWO, man.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Forget it, Dan. She's just an assembly of dead tissue.
What?
What?
Oh, she's got twinkle toes. She's a ballet dancer.
She is a ballet dancer. You are a monster.
Remember, all of this stuff was shot with like 3 cameras, sometimes in front of one another.
Right, because we were
trying to get all the shots and angles.
Running out of time and a lot to shoot.
I always like the way she looks right here. And that's like a photo that ended up in our portfolio. You can see that's her real leg in foreground, and the back is one of the rubber suit leg.
I think Johnny Legend's about to bust through, isn't he?
Yeah, when we were making this, we had no idea how it was gonna be. I mean, you never really do when you're working on a film. But this one, we were like, I don't know. It's like this might be good. It might not be good. It's really hard to tell. Yeah, this is where she reaches in and pulls out her heart.
You know, in these movies, everyone.
And this was we just cut a hole in the suit and she just slipped her hand in, and we had a heart.
Yeah.
In the inside, just yanked it out.
Remember when the balloon came out there?
Oh, that's the beating
through
heart.
The thing?
That's right. Does it happen in this tape? It might.
And there was a clown on the balloon because I bought it in emergency for David Bynum's clown balloons. Remember that? Or a poodle on it.
Right.
You nearly killed me.
Thomas, what are you doing?
I remember the balloon just kept popping that night on the set, and Brian was furious.
Can't you get that heart to
We
beat?
got one from that clown guy that came through. There's Johnny. Look at when Johnny gets shot in the head. You guys do the pull tab.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, the old button out of the head gag right there.
You little squirt.
You little squirt.
That's one of the bits. Now, I'm trying to remember the bits the MPA cut out.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was one.
Yeah.
We had quite a few cuts out of this movie.
They just...
they cut a lot of this part out,
Of
too.
her falling apart?
Yeah. We had to go for the, lighter weight stuff.
So yeah, this is where we just started. This is the puppet head that's in Mr. Renoni's house. And it was just it was on our arm, and we were puppeteering it up. It was like on a sleeve, and slipped it back, and we had all this blood.
That's your drill guns there,
right?
Yeah.
Which aren't really spraying anywhere.
Tom,
what?
Yeah. So that was the whole torso that we built that splits apart.
Beautiful, Brian getting a good political statement in there of Mrs. Chapman beating the hell out of her husband now in death with a poker. Yeah. Now we get into Mad George world.
This is the blue
screen.
Batty.
There's a bat in my house.
The one blue screen shot of David Gale.
Yeah. And then in the background is all Screaming Mad George's stuff.
That was great.
There you go.
That's Charles Schneider. That's Noble Craig. It's an actual triple amputee.
Yeah.
Individual creatures. I came up more or so of just, how offbeat the bits and pieces kind of put together look I can get. And knowing Craig Noble, I thought, I have to use him because this is going to be the weirdest being that you can ever make, So I made it the leg in the black man's leg. So it would be really interesting, that the one thing is the leg and then his real head is next to it. And then his right stump, I just wanted to have a foot right up against it. So it's really tiny midget arm on the one side. And then both legs is a really bizarre stump. And then in the body, there's these pieces really look fused together. So I had to have muscle being putting together look. And then I wanted to have his other head, put up on the back. So you really don't know which side is which. Is like a real head or tail. So design-wise, that is the most surrealistic character I think I've made. Half and half is really a good execution. I think it's the design is sort of like, you just kind of like put the other head in the back, But I think it's one really made it is the other arm that is coming out from the elbow. When in the back side, you are really using the both upper arm together, and that's sort of like it really gave a great illusion. Of course, that's a woman in the suit, and you can see her boobs, and that's the one that is really do the action. But the first, you see, like a hideous face, which is sort of like a male, and then she turns around immediately. So, but I think it really kind of get that really great look. Also, when she a little bit on distance and kind of, you see the full body, and she's kind of like dancing around, while the things are falling down. It gave a really interesting shot.
Well, the ending is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Lots of good horror stuff in there.
Yeah. Pretty action-packed.
This was at that cemetery. Now, this is the last day of the shoot here.
I think we ended up getting $60,000 to do all the effects.
That's what they charge to walk on a set now.
Yeah, we get that a week. But $60,000 to do the whole show. We had a 3-week prep. We shot for, 6 weeks, Tom? 5-6 weeks we shot?
Still shooting it. Yeah.
Still shooting it. It was fast and furious.
No, but I think this is, when this film was made was kind of our glory years in the business.
Well, yeah, it was very beginning.
Yeah.
And we didn't know anything.
Plus, the thing is, you're probably not. I'm sorry, bud.
No, go ahead.
No, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of films like this done anymore. This is like the time when we had all the big crews doing all the practical effects on the sets, actually filming real things, as opposed to like some somebody that knows nothing about reality sitting behind a computer and just creating it. One person creating it. This is the efforts of like a whole bunch of people.
Real men. Wild bunch.
Yeah. And it's not going to be done anymore. People aren't going to take the time to try to work it out and try to figure these things. This is a prime example of this huge effort to try to get everything on the screen right there and then.
And we all still work together, so that should answer your question. Still working with Brian, and see the commercial David and Alan and I made, and Deke was the on-set supervisor, and Bob Kurtzman, and Howard made the Stegosaurus head. It's #1 at Land of Lost Tribal Women for Fabergé.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And just produce a commercial with George directing. So we're all buddies, and still it's amazing what this film put together.
It's true.
And on Bob's film, George did the paintings, the bizarre paintings.
Yeah, I did the painting of Kane Hodder, and
it really did put
girl.
This film. It's really amazing sitting here watching this. You guys put together a group of people that are the hardcore unit, still going in horror.
Yeah, a lot of the same people who worked on your videos were all from this thing too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I mean, in Wishmaster, I thought the hours were real good, but ironically, I just wrapped producing a commercial for Screaming Mad George. Of course, I'm also on The Crow 3 and wrapping a movie called Fever. All working with brighter Re-Animator people, but it was about 20-hour days, but it was also something for, George, when, everyone's passionate and keeps up with it, but when it's something that's idiotically timed out and doesn't have to be like that, the answer is no.
Yeah, there were a lot of mistakes on this film when it came to scheduling wise, because we had we'd get in the morning at 7 o'clock or whatever and put David Gale in the bat wings on his head with the appliances on the side of his face, and literally we'd sit there for the first unit. They said, we're getting to him right away, And before we knew it, the first unit wrapped, and he was sitting there into the night, literally 24 hours with these bat wings on his head. And that's one of my main memories of this whole movie, was sitting around with David Gale with these bat wings on his head, Wayne and I and Tom, and we're playing poker just for hours and hours on end because there was nothing else to do.
I think it's, you know, it's entertaining, and hopefully it satisfied the fans. You know, there's a lot of people like it. Horror fans like it, I think, because there's a lot of horrific sequences in it, you know, and they forgive you for a lot else. And certainly watching it right now, it does have a lot of horrific sequences, especially at the end. I love some of that stuff. The effects guys did great stuff. There's great images of the, you know, what's his name's wife. What a great zombie.
Yeah,
you know,
creepy.
And all those creatures at the end just thrown in, you know.
Well,
I want to see more of them.
I mean,
the Bride is great.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm never satisfied because I tend to watch it, because I'm an actor, I tend to watch, you know, the movie and watch my work, and sort of less of an overview, and I'm not very kind with myself. So I would certainly like to, you know, get back in Herbert's shoes again and sort of...
and beyond.
And beyond, and to infinity and beyond, and just sort of explore, you know, his evolution, and because he's so interesting and irresistibly fascinating, even though he's appalling in his pursuit. He is one of the ultimate mad scientists.